In a world far away from ours, there was a prophecy that spoke of the end of the age. It was said that when the time came, the angels would descend from the heavens and separate the wicked from the righteous. As the years passed, people talked about the prophecy less and less. Many believed it to be nothing more than a myth, a story to scare children into behaving. But there were some who held on to the prophecy, who believed that it was only a matter of time before the angels came. One of these believers was a man named Samuel. He lived in a small village on the outskirts of a great city, and he spent much of his time studying the ancient texts that spoke of the end of the age. Samuel was convinced that the angels were coming, and he did his best to warn his fellow villagers. Most people ignored Samuel's warnings, but a few listened. Among them was a woman named Rachel. She was a kind-hearted soul who had always tried to live a good and righteous life. She had heard about the prophecy before, but had never given it much thought. But when Samuel began to speak of the angels, Rachel felt a sense of urgency. Together, Samuel and Rachel began to spread the word about the end of the age. They went from village to village, talking to anyone who would listen. Some laughed at them, others were afraid. But there were always a few who were touched by their words, who felt that there was truth in what Samuel and Rachel were saying. As the days turned into weeks, more and more people began to take notice. They saw the signs of the end of the age all around them. Wars raged in distant lands, and famine and disease spread like wildfire. The world was in chaos, and people began to fear that the prophecy might indeed come true. And then, one day, it happened. The sky turned dark, and a great wind blew across the land. And then, just as the prophecy had foretold, the angels descended from the heavens. They were a sight to behold, with wings of pure white and faces that shone like the sun. They came with a purpose, to separate the wicked from the righteous. People trembled at the sight of them. Some ran and hid, while others fell to their knees in prayer. Samuel and Rachel stood firm, for they knew that they had nothing to fear. They had lived their lives with honor and integrity, and they knew that the angels would see this. The angels moved among the people, their eyes piercing and their judgment swift. They separated the wicked from the righteous, sending the former to a place of eternal punishment, and the latter to a place of eternal rest. In the end, only a few remained. Samuel and Rachel were among them, and they looked out over the empty landscape with a sense of awe. They had witnessed the end of the age, and they had emerged from it as the righteous. And as they stood there, looking up at the angels who had come to judge them, they knew that they had nothing to fear. For they had lived their lives in such a way that they had nothing to regret, and they knew that they would spend eternity in the company of the angels who had judged them.